The news that Lauren Southern, Brittany Pettibone and Martin Selner have been banned from the UK has blown up. In fact, the story blew up way bigger than I thought it would. I mean, what happened to these three people, whatever you think about them, is undoubtedly wrong. It's not right that these people be detained under any kind of terrorism act or that their political speech should be deemed not conducive to the public good by out-of-touch politicians who seem blind to the fact that actually most British voters are also concerned about immigration and Islam. A YouGov poll from a few years ago showed us that 76% of voters want the government to reduce immigration. So why exactly does our government think that it's appropriate to just ban people from entering the country for sharing that same view? But you know, the government does what the government does, and what happened to these three identitarians is nothing new. It's actually happened loads of times before. Let's go back almost a decade to 2009 when Labour Home Secretary Jackie Smith released a list of 16 of 22 individuals that had been banned from entering the UK. Most of the people on the list were banned for either promoting Islamic terrorism or neo-Nazism. Eric Glebe, an American neo-Nazi, along with the founder of the white supremacist website Stormfront, Stephen Black, were among them. But alongside those lunatics was Michael Savage, a conservative right-wing radio host with a massive following. At his peak in 2009, his shows had about 10 million listeners a week. This guy was not and is not fringe. He was a nationally recognised conservative pundit whose voice could have been valuable in sensible and open political discourse. But Jackie Smith said that Savage was banned from the country as he is, quote, considered to be engaging in unacceptable behaviour by seeking to provoke others to serious criminal acts and fostering hatred which might lead to inter-community violence. And then in February 2009, still under Home Secretary Jackie Smith, Dutch MP Geert Wilders was told by the Home Office that he'd been denied entry to the UK. He planned to come to the UK after he was invited actually to go to the House of Lords by Lord Pearson to show his film about Islam fitna. Now it's quite a controversial film, but I thought it was an important one. It looks at the roots of Islam and the effects it has on the West. But you know what, no matter how controversial the film might be, he was invited by a British peer to show the film in the Palace of Westminster, the mother of parliaments. Having an open discussion about serious issues like this is essential for a healthy democracy. And thankfully, actually, in this instance, common sense prevailed, but it was no thanks to the politicians. Wilders won a legal appeal against the ban on travelling to the UK, and he showed the film Fitna in the House of Lords. But unfortunately, this seemed to be an isolated incident. When the Labour government was replaced by a Conservative Liberal Democrat coalition in 2010, Home Secretary Alan Johnson had to make way for the one and only Theresa May. She's the conservative firebrand in kitten heels who would rid us of this lunacy, right? And grab the gavel away from the babies in the Labour Party who had since '97 had ultimate control over who could and could not enter the UK. But it just didn't work out like that, did it? You know, as it turns out, in 2010, it was really just the start for Theresa May setting herself on a 7-year journey towards the office of Prime Minister, where she would consistently prove not only her commitment to mass immigration, which is important, and I've talked about that on a previous video, but also her commitment to banning political speech and banning those with views she doesn't like from entering the country. Theresa May is not a conservative and she's no defender of freedom. She's as bad as the Labour Party, and she actually banned loads of people who criticised Islam or who had opinions that went against the official accepted narrative on multiculturalism and immigration. Pamela Geller, a well-known counter-jihad activist and author, was banned from the UK after planning to come here with fellow activist and author Robert Spencer. They were going to go to a rally by a group called the English Defence League, and you know, they were angry and they wanted to go because it followed the murder of drummer Lee Rigby. For Americans who don't know about this, Lee Rigby was a military man who was literally killed in the street, beheaded in the street in broad daylight in London. Then there's Pastor Terry Jones, who was banned from the UK after he planned a mass burning of Korans on the anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. This was back in 2010, and a spokesman for the Home Office said that, quote, the government opposes extremism in all its forms, which is why we have excluded Pastor Terry Jones from the UK. Again, they said that his presence was not conducive to the public good, but what is conducive to the public good in their eyes? Over the last few years, we've seen horrific terror attacks and multiple examples of Muslim grooming scandals that go back decades. Now, is it conducive to the public good to just pretend that those issues don't exist? Or is it really just conducive to the government getting an easy ride for consistent failures over the last few decades? And then there's even Richard Spencer. Now, I don't agree with him on a lot of stuff, but then why does that matter? Richard Spencer has been to the UK loads of times and he hasn't caused riots or hurt anyone. And unless he's shouting from the rooftops that he wants to kill non-whites or something, or get involved with terrorism, which he's not, then really on what grounds can he be banned? Now, I really don't agree with the guy, but so what? Democracy requires lots of different voices, lots of different dissenting voices. People say that now Britain's going down this bad path, this bad road by banning Selner, Southern and Pettibone, but actually we went down this path a long time ago. This is not new. We're already well on our way towards a totalitarian state. In fact, we've almost reached it. You can't dissent at university, you can't dissent on the street, you can't dissent online, and when you do decide to dissent at the ballot box, well, they just ignore you. Banning these people doesn't change anything. There are people in the UK who agree with them, and that's not going to change. If we want to maintain healthy discourse, why don't we instead invite people like this over to the UK with opposing opinions and encourage diversity of thought and critical thinking and get a national debate going on solving problems like immigration? Isn't discussing and solving problems more conducive to the public good than locking up or barring people who share the same views as millions of people in this country?